Well, welcome. This is a webinar called Building Strong Foundations for Healthy Relationships. So this is Ruth Sharon, and my dear husband is here as well.
Hello.
This is Jim Sharon. So we've been long-time meditators. That has created such a strong foundation for our relationship. And I'd like to share quickly a story from years ago, probably in the late 70s, I would think. I was visiting Jim's parents with him, and I was sitting on his bed where he used to pray as a child and a teenager. And so the room felt very spiritual in a sense. And I was sitting there learning my meditations. I had become a new meditator in the 70s. And as I was sitting there and breathing and settling in, I saw this startling white light. I don't know if any of you have seen it. The white light was so bright, my eyes were like twitching. It was so intensely beautiful. I can see it right now. And I kept feeling like this light goes on and on and on and on, and I just wanted to dissolve into it and melt into it. And as I saw this white light, I saw this image, almost like being in the ocean and having a cup at the ocean. Think about being inside the water and having a cup, a plastic cup or a paper cup, and scooping up some of the water from the ocean. And so you know that the water inside that cup is exactly the same water as in the ocean. And that's the image I had, that here's this light, and my body, my personality, my ego was the container, or is the container, for this light. Same light inside of me as outside of me. That was a very revealing moment. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because in our life, our cup, so to speak, our container for the life energy, can become very gunked up, very thickened, hardened. We can be very protective, defensive. Picture a thick cup. And we don't know that what's inside the cup is the same as what's outside. We feel very separated and separate and alone in some ways. And so we seek out relationship. And then my gunky cup meets Jim's gunky cup, and we get some beauty and some gunk. And relationships are like that. And so what if we could become more aware of how to degunk ourselves, so to speak, and let the light shine brighter, to accept that there are dark times. Sometimes we're in the thickness and the hard times, and we can learn how to move through these with some grace and lots of skill. I mean, there is tons of skill involved in relationship, as you know. So one skill is to know when it's the ego running the show, when it's our defensiveness, our identity, our thickness running the show, or kind of on automatic, and when it's our real self, the presence in the moment of, wow, here I am, this vulnerable human being alive, being present, being self-expressed. Those are very different. So how can we use our love relationship as this container to expand the container? We call it a holy crucible in our book. How we can honor the ego and the essential self, the soul self, the spiritual self, the essence self, and how do we degunk this if we choose to? So I'm going to dedicate this webinar that we're doing to, I have some candles here, and I have one candle to represent Jim. So I'm lighting his candle. This is his essence candle. And I'm lighting one to represent my essence, myself. And now I'm lighting a much bigger candle, 12, 15 times bigger than the small individual candles. And that's the offering that a relationship has, is to be greater when we're joined together in synergy. So I'd like to invite you to either light those candles on your own, set up your own little altar of love, or just imagine it. How can we be each individual and join as one? That's the riddle of relationship. So I'd like to introduce my beloved. Sometimes we're called love doctors. Sometimes we're warriors for love. And Jim and I are here together been married a long time. He'll tell you more about us. And we have a company called Energy for Life, and we're promoting a program called Soulful Couples. So hi, Jim.
Hello, Ruth, and hello, everybody out there. Good evening, or whatever other time you're listening to this, for those who are listening beyond our live presentation. So Ruth alluded to a book that we wrote that a couple of years ago. It was published in August of 2014, and it's called Secrets of a Soulful Marriage, Creating and Sustaining a Loving, Sacred Relationship. That was published by Skylight Path. You know, Ruth and I have worked together for 40 of our nearly 46 years of marriage, and we're going to celebrate that this summer. That is pretty... I don't even know how we got to that many years. I often tell people I don't even feel 40 years old. But anyway, that's the case. And something else that we feel very pleased about is that we've been voted for the second consecutive year the best relationship coaches in Colorado. And that was in a contest called a Fan Bragging Contest. So we're kind of touting that tonight, too. I'm going to charge right into the first of 4 topics, and we're just going to highlight some things on each of these areas that we identify as pretty key, crucial areas, components of a healthy relationship, a mature relationship. You're muted. Be notified. Okay, so the first one is called self-care and couple care. And I'll be speaking to that, and then Ruth and I are going to alternate in these different areas. So, you know, back in my days, so to speak, there were many kids in that generation that were taught that self-love was egotistical or narcissistic. Now, that's kind of shocking to me, you know, that that's not many years ago that, you know, we had that going on. And there's still, surprisingly, remnants of that message today. But fortunately, people are you know, they realize more today that, you know, these terms like self-centered and vain and indulgent and selfish, they're not really very apt. Those descriptors really don't characterize us unless you're focusing the bulk of your time on things like money, attention, on time, money, and attention on things like exercise or health products or special diets, recreation. And notice the way I'm saying it, not that those things in themselves are bad or dysfunctional. It's just when you devote so much of your attention in that direction. So the good news is, you know, when we choose to live a well-balanced life, that gives impetus to caring for your couple relationship. You take care of yourself, that gives you all the more tools to go on to really care about the couple. So that you're meeting or supporting each other's various needs, physical, emotional, spiritual, recreational. And by the way, I would include sex in all of those categories, and also social needs. Women are much more inclined, maybe I shouldn't say much more, but certainly more inclined to, you know, because of their upbringing and our cultural standard, to relegate their own needs and interests to the back burner. And what happens is that women, you know, get taught through our society that caretaking is a virtue. Caretaking mainly of your families and other significant people in your lives. Now, that's not a bad thing, obviously. It's just that it's limiting when so much attention goes to being, let's say, child-centered. So, fortunately, these days, both sexes are becoming much more balanced. And I say these days, it's really more and more over the last few decades. So self-care and couple care can indeed go hand in hand. And doing that is the healthiest, mutually empowering way to go. So that's my piece. Ruth, you want to jump in and talk a little bit about communication?
Sure. I just want to encourage people to download the handout. If you're on the Start Meeting site, there is a link loaded in there that you can copy, download the Foundations of Healthy Relationships and follow along with our program here, and you can fill in some of your own notes in the spaces that we've left. Gives us contact information as well. So just want to encourage you to use the resources. Our website is energyforlife.us, and we have a quiz on there on the latest blog that we did called Going the Distance. And this really amplifies what we're talking about tonight. It's how do you really sustain a relationship over time? So take the quiz and see how you're doing. So communication, we know that's a hallmark of a healthy relationship, and communication takes so many forms. I've been a student of communication my whole life, and we can use communication to really connect with each other, or we can use it to hurt and protect and defend, and all these ego mechanisms can jump in there. So how can we honor each other, that we're each separate human beings, and we live in different worlds. We each have our own set of values and beliefs and interests, and, we're different. We're each an individual, which is really the good news. And so communication becomes a bridge to connect us from one world to the other. And do we travel this bridge respectfully? Do we travel this bridge in order to connect, or do we do it to control? What is our motive? What's our intention? So I'm going to highlight 4 different aspects of communication here so that we can really be wise in our communication. So one of the first things I want to highlight is the stress mechanism that we have. When somebody's talking to us and they say something in a way that triggers us, that means that there's something going on inside of us that is reacting to this. It could be a tiny reaction, we might not notice it, or we could flare up and see red. We're so mad at what the person said to us. So this is a stress reaction, and most of you have probably heard of the fight-flight reaction patterns. These are just inborn in our bodies. Our brains are loaded in with this mechanism to protect us, which is beautiful. It's a protection, but it also ends up distancing us if we don't monitor it. So we could fight, defend ourselves, and be caustic and rude and demeaning in our anger or our irritation that somebody's saying something. Or we might want to flight, go away. We might shut down. We get very sullen. We can't speak. We just don't want to talk to the other person. We might go away, get out of the room, go watch TV, go get high in some way, go eat something, get away from the situation. Or we might feel really frozen, I can't believe she just said that. I can't believe he's telling me that, or he's accusing me of that. We're just frozen. Or perhaps we're just feeling really faint, we just feel so weak, I don't know what to do. So fight, flight, freeze, faint are some of these reactions. So here's the tips for today. Find out what you're feeling. Notice that reaction, and is it a 1 to 10, a little bit, medium, a whole bunch of that reaction? And when the numbers are low, it's pretty easy to stop and calm yourself. Take a little break, step back a little bit, collect yourself, and to be able to come back to the conversation either right there or say, I need to take a break. This has triggered off some stuff I need to process, and I'll be right back. Or let's reconvene on this topic in a little while. Sometimes if the reaction's really high, we might need to discharge, man, you just hit this button inside of me. Let's go take a walk. I need to walk this off. I need to go to the gym. I need to discharge this energy. I need to go chop vegetables. I need to do something. So honoring the fight-flight mechanism in us and use our communication as it's going on, not use that reaction as a reason not to communicate, but use it as a vehicle to actually get closer. So along those lines, watching the communication patterns of thousands and thousands of people over the years, as we said, 40 years of working together. We each have our own private practice and do our coaching practices and run seminars and retreats and all that, and we've watched the patterns. So, the you always and you nevers are very big triggers for people. If that message starts coming your way, what's your first reaction? You want to defend yourself. I do not. You always do this. That just sets off a fight. So what if we could catch ourselves instead of saying, you're never available, you're never home, you never pay any attention to me, you never, and convert that into the I message. I miss you, and I want to spend some time together. Do you think Friday night would work? We have some sweet time together. So start shifting those I messages, those you messages into I messages, and watch the magic. The third tip I want to give you tonight is something that I learned years ago. It's a 1 to 5 scale. So in our communication, a 1 is, hey, Jim, did we get any mail? And he says back, what are we having for dinner? So that is not communication. That's just voices in the air, right? So that's a 1. 2 is like, I might say to him, hey, I went to the doctor today, and he's like, how was the traffic? So he's talking sort of on the same topic, but he's not connecting with my feelings about going to the doctor. So 3, which is our target, is, hey, honey, I went to the doctor today, and he says, oh, what happened? Are you concerned? And he engages with me. Now we're communicating. A 4 would be, he's listening so beautifully to me that this wonderful space opens and he's able to contribute to me. He's able to support me, be emotional support, maybe contribute some ideas or ways that I could handle what's going on. And then a 5 is like such an amazing breakthrough. We're communicating so well. We're on the same wavelength that, boom, something new is created. The old paradigms just kind of shatter and there's something else there. It's like, wow. I love those moments. They're very rare and delicious. But we're targeting for a 3. And my last one is about listening. We know how important listening is. So how do we get under the radar and not trigger off the ego's defensiveness, but allow ourselves to really listen? So it's not a yes, but it's a yes, and. I hear you, and I'm wondering about this. I have some curiosity. That's my timer. So listening from the heart for connection, for feeling, for empathy, for understanding. Listening from the head to get the facts, to find out what the task is. What are we supposed to do here? What are you asking me? And also listening from the gut to discern if it feels right, if it feels true, if I feel like I trust you, if it feels safe. So those are my 4 tips for tonight. All right, Jim.
Well, we're moving right along, and this piece is going to be on respect. And I'm sure you can relate to the importance of that category in a mature relationship and a relationship that works well. So, as we, not as we, but as with self-love, we can't genuinely and consistently offer dignity to your partner. I say we, say we or you. I'm going to interchange some of these terms. I'm going to say he and she sometimes interchangeably. But you can't, consistently give dignity to your partner unless you have a sufficient measure of self-esteem. Makes sense, right? That you can't give what you don't possess. You have to have it for yourself first. Now, chivalry and good manners, which often get associated with respect, are very nice, yet respect goes far beyond just opening car doors for the lady, to give you one common example, right? Goes beyond that. So for one, it requires honoring each other's personal boundaries and privacy. So often those get invaded and violated, and that's really an injustice, a disservice to one another. Respect also involves admiring and valuing your partner. You can let her know, again, I'll say her, but obviously both, her, him. You can let her know verbally, such as with sincere, heartfelt compliments. And you can do that through kind gestures. Also, adequately, and I'm stressing the word adequately, helping out with household chores, not just, let's say, taking out the trash or doing minimalistic stuff, but really helping out. And for some of you, that also means active parenting, those of you who are parents. So you can see that a lot of issues get triggered when these things aren't met. People feel disrespected, disenfranchised even, I've got 3 kids and you're not doing your piece. You're just sitting there watching TV. So another aspect of respect is accepting and often actually appreciating the differences between you two. Hear the difference between those terms, accepting and appreciating. Appreciating is much stronger. It's not just tolerating or dealing with, but saying, well, it's pretty great that we have these differences. And that includes conflicts, which are inevitable. They're going to occur in all relationships. Conflicts happen. So you can agree to disagree and still treat each other decently and above board. And, during conflicts and arguments, certainly avoiding nasty remarks, being snarky, insulting, and, of course, much worse than that. And you know what that would look like. Hopefully you don't know that personally. Anyway, there's the big-time type of respect as well. And ultimately what that looks like is offering strong support for what most matters to your mate. What gives him great meaning and life purpose? Really championing that, advocating for him, getting behind him. And as your life, as your love deepens over the years, you can come to increasingly cherish your partner, which is really what all of us want to experience. We want to both in terms of giving and receiving profound love. That's, I'd say, what we're really all about. So chew on that a little bit. And I'm going to turn it back to my sweetheart, Ruth Sharon. Go for it.
Thank you. Well, that's beautiful, Jim. I love feeling cherished and respected by you. That gives my life so much richness. Yes. Lovely. Well, we are doing 4 foundational attributes. One is to be able to really take good care of ourselves and honor the relationship, to communicate well, and to give respect and cherishing so that we create a safety with each other. And the last one that we're going to talk about tonight is to explore intimacy in new, surprising, and pleasing ways. So what do you think of when I say intimacy? All right, are you just thinking about sex? Is that the only definition we have of intimacy? Well, what about vulnerable sharing? What about really being there and saying, God, I'm hurting. I'm having a really hard time, honey. Could you hold me? I just feel lost. I feel confused. I feel overwhelmed. I need you. I need you to be strong for me right now. Those kind of vulnerable sharings really bring a couple together. They don't polarize. They're the unifying candle in my little altar here that I'm looking at. So how can we connect in ways that aren't just the vulnerable sharing, but maybe it's the deliciousness, like, oh, I'm so excited about doing some artwork. Will you do some artwork with me? Or I just want us to lay and massage each other and use some nice oils. Not sexual. Let's just massage and relax and be agents of our own letting go. We're so busy. Let's let go together. Those kind of things, we can set intentions for that. And, it's a great way to build the intimacy is to schedule regular dates. Jim and I love dates. So, it doesn't have to be a big deal.
I'm sorry.
Sometimes it's just sitting at the dining room table and playing, chess or Scrabble, or, we do stretching together. I've been a yoga teacher for many years, and we're both meditation teachers and healers. So, all those are beautiful practices. Sometimes we'll sit in front of our bookshelf and we'll just randomly pull out a book and open it anywhere and start reading to each other and give each other a little nugget of wisdom or truth or humor or whatever. Maybe it's jokes. There's so many ways to have intimacy. But the main thing is to really be able to deliver this sense of, I'm here for you. We're together. We're merging together. We're not losing ourselves. We're just entwining our love into this holy, spacious place. And we give ourselves these deep roots of security and trust and safety. And we also give each other the wings to explore, to soar, to expand, to grow, to keep evolving. That's been a hallmark for Jim and I. When I first met him, I just thought, oh my God, I connect to this guy on so many levels. We can play together, we can talk, we can have adventures together, we can do so many things, and to have our professional life now joined together is really incredible. So our intimacy can be so simple, and so can yours. Sometimes we're unloading the dishwasher and we'll just look in each other's eyes and go, wow, here we are. Here's our beautiful home. Here's our life. Isn't this sweet? So sometimes it's really simple. Sometimes it's sitting on the couch together and having heart talk or soul time or sweet talk or love talk or whatever you want to name it. You can have a name for it. Hey, honey, let's sit on the couch and have sweet time. Whatever it is. So, the sexual part is wonderful and delicious. It might be sensual, sometimes teasing for days at a time, building that energy, evoking each other, seducing each other. Can't wait to be together when the kids go to sleep or when it's our time to be alone or whatever. So sometimes it's, building for days. Sometimes it's slow and delicious. Sometimes it's quick and passionate. There's so many ways to make love and play together and enjoy each other and shift consciousness so that we come into this spiritual oneness and this connectedness. And, it's often said that women love to talk and share and connect emotionally before letting down into sexual play, and men like to go for the sex and get the relief and then feel like they can let down and connect. So that becomes challenging for men and women. Same-sex couples may run into it as well. But that's where communication can come in. So how can we be willing to be in the deep sharing and storytelling and healing and honoring our lower self, some of the unhealed stuff from our past, and elevate our love into the vision of truly what it is that we want in our lives, so that we can be what Jim and I call the king and queen in the mansion of love. So see where you want to go with your intimacy in this relationship, or perhaps you're building to a place where you're going to meet your beloved and you want to have that deep roots and those expansive wings. So let us know how we can support you. So Jim, you want to continue in our closing now?
Yeah, that was really beautiful, sweetie. Really.
Thanks.
I would just add to that, a very key way, a foundational way to show love is by being present. That's both a very large and a very small word, but being present and attentive during, all your interactions. And of course, it really won't be all your interactions, but that's the ideal. And that's especially important, when your mate really needs you. So I just wanted to add that comment.
Uh-huh.
So I've got a little story. Ruth and I both read, and I'm going to set this up by way of closing, but it was very touching to us. And we read the current issue of Oprah magazine, an article by Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the well-known author, very popular author of Eat, Pray, Love, and several other books since then. So she wrote this story about being in New York. It's a true experience of hers. And, we know the reputation New Yorkers can have, the stereotype. That's obviously not everybody, but we know the stereotype, in a hurry, kind of snarky, if you will, distant from one another because of being in a hurry, and irritability just kind of pervades. So this got highlighted for Elizabeth on one particular day, which was very cold and sleeting, strong rain, gets on a bus, and people are already upset just because of the cold and the crowded conditions. And then the traffic becomes snarled. And people are bumping into each other accidentally or on purpose on the bus, won't even give a pregnant woman a seat, not looking at each other, getting nasty. And, this was becoming quite a scene, not only to Elizabeth, but I think, most people couldn't have missed it. Well, one person that definitely didn't miss it was the bus driver. And he gets on the loudspeaker at one point, and he says, "Folks, I got a little idea for you here. As each of you exit this bus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out my arm. And when I extend my arm and palm upward, I want you to put all your troubles and concerns in my palm. And when we get down to the riverside, I'm going to throw them all into the river, and you go about your day and have a lovely one. And no sooner did he say that than the crowd either breaks out in laughter, smiles. The mood just shifts almost instantaneously. And sure enough, as people depart the bus one by one, that palm comes out, and people are putting their imaginary problems, are probably not imaginary, but I mean energetically in his hand, and he proceeds to go all the way down to the river, and bam, out go all their troubles. And do you think he made a little bit of a difference? Rather a ripple, not only across that bus, but other people telling that story like I am to you right now. And the reason I'm really telling it to you right now is that if this bus driver, a simple guy, we're guessing, if he can impact a group of strangers with this kind of caring and that kind of creativity, how could you be inspired to simply yet powerfully make a difference with your own beloved or with a significant person in your life? So reflect on that, if you will. And in closing, I'll say that, we've covered a lot of territory tonight. There's a lot to digest, and there's even more to put into practice. So what Ruth and I are encouraging you to do is just select 2 or 3 specific attitudes or behaviors that you'd like to modify for yourself or in your relationship, and focus on those during the next week or so. Just 2 or 3. That's a great way to get started, and you won't get overwhelmed. You can be focused. So we also invite you to visit our website, which Ruth mentioned before, www.energyforlife.us. The word for is spelled out F-O-R, and again, .us. So on that website, you can sign up for our to receive our biweekly email newsletters. You can sign up for a free call to enhance your relationship. Those are 30-minute, very laser kind of calls where you really hone in. And you can also learn about forthcoming events that we have. So we really appreciate your tuning in tonight to this teleclass, and we hope you've derived a lot of value from it.
Yes, thank you.
Rest of night, and I hope you do rest.
Yes,
right.
And I just wanted to invite people on our Facebook page, too, Soulful Couples and Singles Facebook page. There's a chart I put up on there, the distinctions between the ego and the soul. So check that out, and we hope to see you soon.
Good night.
Good night.